Hey, can I go to the bathroom?
No.
Hey, can I go to the bathroom?
Yeah, of course.
Hey, can I go to the bathroom?
You could leave school right now and never come back for all I care.
You may be wondering, why did I just show you my incredible acting skills right there? Well, it was to give you examples of the different types of teachers that every school has, including yours. First type of teacher we gotta talk about is one that still gives me goosebumps to this day. You know them, you love them. I'm talking about the baddie teacher. Every school had one. The teacher that made attendance mysteriously hit 100% even during flu season. The one where guys who hadn't raised their hand all year were suddenly volunteering to answer questions. The kids who couldn't even tell you what 2 + 2 was suddenly becoming scholars when this teacher walked into the room. And for me, my baddie teacher was Mrs. Rodriguez in English class. And listen, calling this teacher just a baddie doesn't even do it justice for how beautiful she was. And it wasn't just me that thought this. It was all the guys at our school. And because of that, when we were picking our classes, everyone would try to get in Mrs. Rodriguez's class. Not because of what she was teaching. To be honest, I don't even remember a single thing from that class. It was purely because she was 26 years old and looked like she should have been on a magazine cover instead of teaching us about Shakespeare. So of course, when I found out I got into that class, I was so excited. And the actual dynamic in that classroom was insane. Guys would show up 10 minutes early, which never happened for any other class. Like, I knew kids who were late to literally everything. Like, I'm talking, they were probably even late to their own birth. But when it came to this class, suddenly they discovered the concept of being on time. And whenever the teacher needed help with passing papers out, you know everyone raised their hand. I don't know what everyone's grades in that class were, but they must have been pretty great because I saw the same guys who would sleep through every other period suddenly raising their hands to discuss symbolism in the book To Kill a Mockingbird. Do you even know what that sentence I just said means? Me neither. That's how hard people were trying in this class. But not everyone liked this class. No, because the girls hated it. And I understood why. They had to sit there and watch every single guy in the room be a complete moron trying to impress someone they had zero chance with. My friend Sarah, who was in that class with me, once told us being in this classroom is like going to school with 20 golden retrievers who all just saw the same tennis ball. I didn't understand that at first, but now that I think about it, that was pretty clever. But just imagine how depressing it was when the school year ended and I had to say bye to Mrs. Rodriguez. It felt like getting a divorce. I mean, Mrs. Rodriguez, if you're watching this, I am old enough now, in case you want to go on a date or something. You know, I know you were teaching English, but let's be real. I'm pretty sure we both felt some chemistry between us, right? The worst part about this school year ending was that the next year after this, in my new English class, I went from having Mrs. Rodriguez as my English teacher to the next teacher that every school has, which is the creepy dude. Now, if the baddie teacher was every student's crush, the creep was every student's nightmare. Specifically, if you were a girl. We're gonna call my creepy teacher Mr. Peterson because if I use his real last name, I'm afraid he might, I don't know, come to my house and kidnap me or something. I mean, he was a creep. But anyways, Mr. Peterson taught history. I don't know why I said he taught English. But looking back, I have no idea how this man kept his job. He was probably in his late 40s, but dressed like he was trying to fit in at a high school party. I'm talking tie-dye t-shirts, jeans that were way too tight, the whole thing. And he called students by nicknames that he made up himself that never caught on. It was almost as if mentally he was still the age of a high schooler. He had this thing where he'd try to be the cool teacher who related to teenage drama. He'd ask about school parties, who was dating who, everything. And at the time, some people thought it was cool that a teacher was interested in their lives, but there were these moments that even as a dumb teenager, you knew something was off. Like, he'd make comments about what girls were wearing, not directly to them, but he'd be like, which doesn't sound weird, until you realize that this was the tone he said it in. Oh, Sarah, that's a nice dress. Now, if you don't think I should be put in prison just after doing that interpretation, I don't know what to say. Some girls hated his class because of how creepy he was, but other girls loved it because, well, if you were a girl in his class, passing was way easier. I knew a girl who got a B+ on a terrible essay she wrote about the Revolutionary War, and the reason I know it's terrible is because the paper was supposed to be on the Cold War, but what grade did I get on that assignment? I got a C. Now, I'm not saying my essay was amazing, but I do know that I at least wrote it on the right war. The pattern was obvious to anyone paying attention. He'd do that thing where he's half sitting on students' desks while talking to the class, but only the girls' desks, and he'd make jokes that were just slightly too personal. There was this unspoken understanding among the girls in the school that you didn't want to be alone in Mr. Peterson's class. If he asked you to stay after, you'd bring a friend or make up an excuse why you can't. But here's the crazy part. So every school had a teacher like this, right? A little creepy, but only inside school. Like, once you left school, you didn't have to worry about them. Well, Mr. Peterson was different because he would try following students through social media. Was this illegal? I don't think technically, but it was weird. And one of the girls who had him as a teacher decided to accept his follow request just to see if he would do anything weird. And as far as I know, he never DM'd her, but he would always comment on all her photos. Didn't say anything unusual, but the fact that he was commenting at all was weird. And this was about 8 years ago. So you may be wondering, where is he now? Well, he was actually on a YouTube video last week. Yeah, that's right. He was on a Gideon video. No, I'm just kidding. But I wouldn't be surprised if he was on there soon. Now, thankfully, the creep teacher usually just taught high school classes, which didn't make it any better, but at least he wasn't teaching younger kids. Because have you ever noticed how the types of teachers schools have changes as you go to different grades? Elementary school teachers were basically just your second parents. You were still at the age where you're pooping your pants in class like every other day, so they couldn't even even really focus on actually teaching. And you were scared of the teachers. Like my elementary school classes always had these colored cards you'd get. Green meant you were doing good, but red meant bad. So if you got a red card, it was basically like getting a red card in football. You were cooked. Then you move on to middle school, where for the first time, you're actually starting to learn stuff beyond just addition and subtraction and how to not poop your pants. And now, instead of just having one teacher, you had 6 or 7 all teaching different subjects. School's getting harder, you're going through puberty, and all the teachers are telling you, you better not mess around. They won't let this slide in high school. Then you get to high school, and they let literally everything slide. Like everything. Because high school teachers either acted like the president who didn't let you do anything, so you hated going to their class. But the other half of high school teachers were just people who had straight up given up on life by this point. They were just trying to make it to retirement. You could do literally whatever you wanted in these classes, which brings me to my next subject, the chill teacher. The chill teacher was usually a coach for one of the school's sports teams who just needed a teaching job to legally coach. They literally had the I'm just here so I don't get fined attitude about their job. Everyone was getting an A in their class no matter what. Show up or don't, they couldn't care less. The only thing they cared about is when that last period bell rang and they got to leave the classroom and head to the football field. I will never forget the one class I had with our football coach because it was amazing. I had a teacher named Coach Matthews who taught physical education theory. And you may be saying, I've never heard of that class before. Yeah, me neither. All of us students were pretty sure they just made it up simply so he had a class to teach. And let me tell you, this man put about as much effort into teaching as this security guard did trying to stop people trespassing. He would do the same thing every day. Put on a documentary about sports and then fall asleep at the desk. I'm not exaggerating about the sleeping thing just to make the story sound better either. He had a full routine. He'd start the video, tell us to take notes on it, then sit down, put his feet up, and within 10 minutes, he was out, completely snoring. We'd have full conversations at normal volume and he would not wake up. His grading system was the most simple thing ever. You either got 100% or 0. That's it. If you showed up, you got the 100. If you were absent or being dumb, you still probably got the 100. I never met anyone in that class who did get a 0, so I don't even know if that ever happened. But it genuinely would have been harder to get a 0 than a 100. You would think at some point the school would step in and be like, hey coach, if you're gonna continue working at this school, we need you to actually teach something, like even just a little bit. But Coach Matthews was so good at coaching the team that as long as they kept winning, the school didn't care one bit about what was going on inside the classrooms. Every day I miss Coach Matthews' class. But if there's one class I really don't miss, it was my 7th grade science class. Because for some reason, there are some teachers out there who wake up in the morning with one thing on their mind, and that is to make sure their students' lives are as miserable as possible. It's like they can't sleep unless they know every student is going home after school crying. My 7th grade science teacher, Mrs. Elliott, taught me that some people just want to see the world burn. And she is the subject of the next type of teacher I'm going to talk about, which is the teacher that's on
A power trip.
If you don't know what I mean by this, let me give you a visualization of what this looks like. Picture a boxing ring, and inside it is the best fighter in the world. If someone tries to come into that ring, they beat them up, punch them until they have no hope left. Now the teacher that's on a power trip, that's the boxer. And the boxing ring is her classroom. And the opponents that come into the ring are the students. Because stepping into Mrs. Elliott's classroom was like stepping into a torture chamber. But at least when you're in one of those, the torture usually stops after a while. This, on the other hand, was never ending. So real quick, I gotta tell you guys this. A couple weeks ago, I'm mid-workout trying to get jacked, but in the middle of my exercise, I feel pain in my chest. Not an emergency, nothing dramatic, but just enough to where I'm like, okay, that doesn't feel normal. So I finish the workout, go home, and just forget about it, thinking I'll just be good tomorrow. But then tomorrow comes, and my chest hurts even more. I give it a couple days to see if it could get better, but it didn't. If anything, it just kept getting worse. Now usually, this would be the time where I just ignore it and hope it could get better on its own. But this time was different, because now, instead of just letting the problem linger and not doing anything to fix it, I use ZocDoc, today's video sponsor. ZocDoc is a free website that helps you find and book high-quality in-network doctors, all based on your own preferences. You can search through 200 plus specialties offered on ZocDoc and see which doctors take your insurance and read reviews from real patients before deciding who's right for you. They have over 150,000 providers across all 50 states, covering everything from primary care to dentistry to dermatology and eye care. You can book in-person or video visits, see real-time availability, and schedule instantly with no phone calls required. And appointments made through ZocDoc typically happen within 24 to 72 hours, sometimes even same day. So if you've ever ignored the doctor because of how annoying the process is, you can check out ZocDoc.com/Tyler Vitelli. The link's in the description. Thanks again to ZocDoc for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get back to it. Let me explain to you just how horrible this class was. You couldn't use the bathroom during class, ever. Didn't matter if it was an emergency, didn't matter if you were sick, it did not matter if you quite literally pooped on the floor. Because she had this whole thing about how
in the real world, you can't just leave leave whenever you want.
Which is actually not true at all. I have no idea where she got that from, but whatever. And then when it came to where we sat in class, of course, she assigned seats, but she had a strategy to make sure we sat in the worst spot possible. If she saw you even smile talking to the person sitting next to you, she would immediately move you next to someone you didn't talk to. The whole point of her class was to make sure that you did not enjoy it. Of course, the most terrifying part of being in her class was on test day, because cheating in that class was impossible. If you even dared to turn your head 1 degree in either direction, you better kiss any chance at college away, because she would fail you right there. I remember one time, a kid sneezed during a test, and she accused him of cheating. Yeah, because of a sneeze. He promised he wasn't cheating, but she didn't trust him, so she made him retake the test alone in the hallway. When he tried to explain that he just sneezed, she said,
I've been teaching for 15 years. I know all the tricks that you guys try to pull by now.
Looking back at it though, I low-key respect how dedicated she was to being a villain. Like, she was really a D1 rage baiter. And don't get me wrong, I never want to go inside that class again, but I can tip my cap to anyone who's that committed to something. Now, that science class was bad, but at least after the school year ended, I never had to worry about it again. But unfortunately, there are some teachers you are stuck with for life, whether you like it or not. And it's all because you know this teacher outside of school. For me, it was Mrs. Patterson, my friend's mom. She taught some medical class I don't remember the name of, and at first, I thought it was gonna be chill. Like, she was cool outside of school. I've been to their house for sleepovers many of times. So surely this would be an advantage for me, right? It was not an advantage. First of all, I think because everyone knew that I was best friends with her son, she went out of her way to not show me any favoritism, which, okay, I respect, but also, come on, throw me a bone. Like, if I asked a question, she'd be more strict about making me figure it out myself than she was with other students. But the real awkwardness came from the fact that since I was friends with her kid, my mom was friends with her. So if I was misbehaving in class, my mom knew about it. If I was talking to a girl in that class, she'd tell my mom about it. That never happened, let's be real. But if it did happen, my mom would have known. Point was, I felt like I always had to have my guard up here because she was watching everything I did and reporting it back to my mom. The worst part was how this affected me outside of school, because now, whenever I would try going to Jake's house to hang out, if his mom was there, I tried to hide from her. I didn't know whether she was gonna be cool mom or scary teacher, so I just didn't want to get involved with it at all. It actually started to put a strain on mine and Jake's friendship because I started saying no more and more whenever he would ask me to come over. Not because I was busy, but I just didn't want to go to the house where my teacher lived, unless it was Mrs. Rodriguez's house. Once again, hit me up. I do have to say though, as much as this class made me super uncomfortable, my friend's mom was a pretty good teacher. I got a solid grade in that class if I remember correctly, but I can't say the same about this next type of teacher, which is the one who just straight up sucks at teaching. Not even trying to say this in a mean way. Like, this type of teacher was usually really nice and trying their best. They just had no idea what they were doing. A lot of the time, it would be an old person who was alive for both World War II and Prime Fortnite. So by this time, their brain just could not function anymore. And the question with these teachers is, why don't they just retire? They're already 105 years old. Go travel the world. Enjoy your life. Get out of the classroom for once. Well, the reason they don't retire is because teaching is what gives them purpose. Teaching is what gets them out of bed in the morning. Without teaching, they don't know what to spend their days doing. They simply love teaching. And teachers also get paid like $4 an hour, so they probably just didn't have enough money to retire. But the other part sounds sweeter, so let's just go with that. Now, I had a teacher like this in school named Mrs. Campbell. She taught algebra, but there was only one problem with being in her class. She had no idea how to do algebra. Literally no clue. Talking about her chocolate chip cookie recipe? Yeah, she could do that, but finding the circumference of a right triangle? No chance. She was a lovely person, always positive, always encouraging, but when she tried to explain certain concepts, it was like she was speaking a different language. She'd write something on the board, and her hands were shaking, so you couldn't even really read it, but this is what she would do.
So if you multiply 3 times the x variable and then find the square root of it, then you get, who's hungry?
She'd pause, erase what she just wrote, rewrite it slightly differently, then look at the textbook to confirm that she did it right. She never did it right. She'd teach the same concept 5 different ways, and somehow all of them were wrong. I remember spending an entire week on quadratic equations, a concept I didn't even know existed, and by the end of it, I was more confused than when we started. Really think about that. I understood a concept more when I had never heard about it than after she started teaching it to us. But you could never be mad at her because she was so nice. She genuinely cared about whether we were learning. She'd stay after class to help, offer extra credit, and try her best. But unfortunately, her best just kinda sucked. Her class definitely made me dumber, which is pretty impressive for me. But there would be kids who would take advantage of this. Because since the teacher was so out of the loop, you could tell her that she made a mistake grading your assignment, and she would just trust you. There were students all the time who would absolutely bomb a test, then go up to her and say she put the score in wrong, and she would just assume they were telling the truth and change it. Mrs. Campbell, if you're still kicking, which I hope you are, I want you to know we appreciate you, okay? We know you tried your best. It's time to sail into the sunset now. Go to Fiji, go to the Bahamas. Just enjoy yourself, girl. You deserve it. Now, I kind of mentioned that you could manipulate Mrs. Campbell into getting whatever grade you wanted because she didn't know any better. But old people aren't the only type of teachers you can do this to, because there's another type of teacher you just have to feel bad for. And I'm talking about the pushover. The teacher who tried so hard to get respect, but had absolutely none. They didn't run the class. The students did. Kids would be on their phones, talking to each other, going to the bathroom for 30 minutes at a time. And for some reason, the teacher just didn't have the ability to do anything about it. No one feared them at all. I actually cringed being in these classes because sure, I liked messing around and going on my phone during the whole class too, but seeing the teacher try to correct kids and them just not caring kind of made me feel bad for them. I've been in a class like this before where the teacher was pretty much invisible. Anything he said or did was irrelevant because none of the students cared. There was one time where he was doing a presentation about the Industrial Revolution and this kid was talking, so he went,
Garrett, please stop talking while I'm teaching.
and Garrett just went,
Yeah, so what am I? You're not my boss, shut up. So anyways, yeah.
Funny thing about that is, in this scenario, he pretty much is your boss. Like, that's literally his role. But you want to know what was really tragic about being in that class? The teacher said that after this year, they were going to go retire and celebrate by exploring the world for the next whole year. Well, fast forward to the end of the school year, and we were such a bad class that he said he couldn't go out on a year that horrible. So he came back for one more year to try again. And then, in the middle of that year, COVID happened. So he never got to travel the world. Legend has it, he's still teaching to this day, and no one is paying attention. Here's some teachers I think we've all had before, but I didn't think were as prominent as the other ones. Number one, the oversharer. This teacher is absolutely goated to have. All you gotta do is get them talking about their weekend or their hobby outside of school, and they will waste the whole period yapping about it. Then before you know, the class is over and you did absolutely no work. I've had plenty of teachers like this where I just pretended to act interested in whatever was going on in their life just so we didn't have to do any work. Oh, you just watched the new season of Grey's Anatomy? Tell me all about it, Mrs. Michaels. Matter of fact, tell me about every season. I've had classes before where we literally didn't do the test we were supposed to do because the teacher couldn't stop talking in time to pass it out. Number two, the teacher that tries too hard to be cool. Desperately wants to be relatable to all the students. They use outdated slang, try to ask about how our personal lives are going. I remember one time, my teacher was trying her hardest to understand Gen Z slang after we took a super hard test. So she said to us,
Sorry about how difficult that test was, guys. That probably wasn't very lit, was it?
nobody had the heart to tell her that the hairs on the back of our necks just went up out of cringe. Number three, the mystery teacher. You genuinely have no idea what they do outside of school. They appear at 7:55 a.m., teach for 6 hours, then vanish. Search them up on social media, no record of them. You don't know if they have a family, friends, anything. You think one of two things about them. Either they're in witness protection or they're a robot. I prefer my teachers this way because, like I've said before, thinking about the fact that teachers have their own lives out of school just doesn't feel right to me. But there is one flavor of teacher that is the ultimate gamble. You have no idea whether this will be the best class of your life or the worst. And that is because I'm talking about the substitute teacher. Having a sub was like playing Russian roulette. Wait. No, I'm talking about a substitute teacher, not a Subway sandwich, you big back G's. Calling me a big back when you eat like this is crazy. Really? Do you want to go right now, editor? You know what? Let's go. Let's meet in the parking lot. Come on. Okay guys, sorry for that delay. I had to take care of that situation with my editor. But anyways, where was I? Oh yeah, having a substitute teacher could either be the best day of your entire school year or it could end in disaster. There was no in between. The good subs were incredible. You'd walk into class and they'd just be chilling at the desk, scrolling on their phone. Then when the bell rang, they just hand out a worksheet and go, all right guys, finish this by the end of class or don't. I'm not gonna check. And you would just spend the entire class talking with friends, catching up on homework for other classes. But the one thing that you definitely weren't doing was that dang worksheet. Everyone was happy. But then there were the subs who tried to actually teach. Why would you even do that? And this is where things got dangerous because since the sub wasn't your normal teacher, no one respects them. They think they can do whatever they want without any punishment. But let me just tell you right now, that is not true. And I know this because I had a sub for English once and she was trying to teach. But then one person decided to test her limits. He started talking loud, then throwing things and got other people involved. And you could see the moment the sub decided she had enough. She pulled out a piece of paper and started writing. Everyone knew what she was writing. The note. That's right. The worst thing you could possibly see when having a sub. The note is what the sub leaves for the regular teacher to read when they get back. And if it was a good note, awesome. But if it was a bad note, you might as well not even bother showing back up at school. So the sub starts writing names on the note and all of a sudden, everyone wants to become professional scholars. No one's saying a word. I even saw the kid that wouldn't stop yapping 5 seconds ago holding up a quiet sign. I guarantee that's the first time he's ever done that in his life. So the whole class knew we were cooked because when the teacher starts writing names on the note, you have no idea if yours is on it or not. So you just have to wait till the next day. And when that next day came, where our actual teacher came back, she had fury in her eyes. She read the note out loud, basically saying how much we all sucked, and we're all holding our breaths to find out what was in it. And after she finished reading the notes, she announced we were having a pop quiz due at the end of class. Everyone failed, and we deserved it, but it still sucked. So if you have a substitute, just behave, because getting your name on that note is not worth it. Or honestly, just don't show up at all if you have a sub. They probably wouldn't even notice anyway. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have some unfinished business I have to take care of with my editor. Let's go.